My husband abruptly filed for divorce, claiming I was a worthless wife, and abandoned me for a younger mistress. He was certain I couldn't make it without him. I simply smiled. Now he calls me 20 times a day. Okay, you are not going to believe what happened to me. One moment I was just living my life folding laundry. The next, my husband of 15 years, James, was tossing divorce papers onto our coffee table, calling me a useless wife, and casually announcing he was moving in with his mistress. My world didn't just crash. It exploded. And I was left there in pure shock thinking, what the hell just happened to my life? I know. A part of me feels like I should have seen it coming. Looking back, the signs were all there, staring me right in the face. But when you've built your entire life with someone, you just don't want to believe they could change so drastically. Or maybe, just maybe, they were always like that and I just refused to see it. It started subtly. About 8 months ago, James got really into fitness. F45 every morning at 5 a.m., new Lululemon everything, constantly checking his Apple Watch stats. I was actually happy for him. We're not getting any younger and health is important, right? He even bought me a Peloton for Christmas. Though he never missed an opportunity to remind me how much it cost and how little I used it. Then came the late nights at work, the weird texts he'd quickly hide when I walked by. The new cologne from Sephora that he claimed was a free sample. He started making comments, too, about my appearance, suggesting I try those viral TikTok skincare products or get Botox like everyone else. Mind you, I take care of myself. I just wasn't interested in dropping hundreds on La Mer creams or whatever was trending on Instagram that week. Yesterday, though, was the real turning point. I was folding laundry, ironic, given his useless wife comment, and found a receipt from Tiffany & Company in his pocket. Tiffany's. We're not rich people, we shop at Target, we drive a 2018 Honda. A Tiffany receipt set off major, blaring alarm bells in my head. My stomach dropped, but I forced myself to log into our joint account. What I saw, I nearly had a heart attack. Multiple withdrawals to an account I didn't recognize, our savings slowly draining over the past 6 months. It was all there laid bare. I waited until he got home, the crumpled receipt clutched in my hand. I braced myself for the usual excuses, the gaslighting. Instead, he laughed. Actually laughed. Then he sauntered into his home office, came back with an envelope, and tossed it onto our coffee table. I was going to wait until the weekend, but since you're being nosy, here you go, he said, that smug smirk plastered across his face like he just won the lottery. My lawyer says it's a generous offer, considering you've contributed basically nothing to this marriage. I sat there frozen, staring at the divorce papers. He just kept talking, oblivious, blathering on about how his new girlfriend, Aurora, actually takes care of herself and has ambition. Apparently, she's some fitness influencer he met at F45, with 50K followers on Instagram, and she's going places. Meanwhile, I'm just me, the wife who supported him through his early career, handled all our housework, and put her own ambitions on hold because he said his job should come first. The worst part? He'd been planning this for months. He already had an apartment with her in one of those luxury complexes downtown. That Tiffany receipt? Promise ring. He'd used our joint savings to buy his mistress jewelry. Let's be realistic, he said, cutting through my shock. You can barely work the Netflix app without my help. You'll be calling me within a week, begging to work things out. I'm actually doing you a favor, teaching you to finally grow up. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there numb, watching him pack his suitcase. All his expensive new clothes, his iPad, his gaming console, even the good coffee maker. He left me with the cheap one. After he walked out that door, leaving an echoing silence, I finally moved. I opened my laptop and started digging. I found he'd been moving money around since January, credit card statements for restaurants and hotels I never knew about, even a Venmo history that made my stomach churn. I called my sister, Vivian. She came right over, no questions asked. We stayed up all night going through papers, making lists. This morning I called in sick to work and made an appointment with a divorce attorney. And thanks to a random TikTok video, I froze our joint credit cards. Irony, huh? It's been 24 hours. My phone shows 23 missed calls from him. The first voicemail was angry. The second was threatening. By the 10th, he was practically begging me to talk about this rationally. Oh, James, the game has changed. So here's a quick update because this week has been wild. Remember how James was so sure I'd fall apart without him? Well, karma apparently had other plans. It started when I finally landed a job at a local company. Nothing fancy, just basic customer service, $16 an hour. But here's the kicker. The office is in the same building as one of James's biggest clients. You know, the ones he's always trying to impress. I didn't plan this. I just saw the job on Indeed and applied. My first day, guess who I run into in the elevator? James, wearing his important meeting suit, the one he maxed out our Nordstrom card for. And Aurora, trailing behind him like a lost puppy. His face when he saw me in actual work clothes carrying my new laptop bag? Priceless. Aurora just stood there awkwardly, probably wondering why her successful boyfriend suddenly looked like he'd seen a ghost. But here's where it gets really good. Remember how James always handled our finances because I was too scattered to understand them? Turns out my new manager Matthew actually likes how detail-oriented I am. He asked me to help organize some spreadsheets for the office. And while I was learning Excel thanks YouTube tutorials, I started applying those same skills to organizing all the evidence of James's financial shenanigans. The best part? I didn't have to do anything dramatic. I just handed over my neatly organized folders of bank statements, credit card bills, and screenshots to my divorce attorney. She actually smiled when she saw how thorough I'd been. "This is perfect," she said. "We won't even need to hire a forensic accountant." James found out about all this during our first mediation meeting. He showed up all confident, probably expecting me to be a mess. Instead, he walked into a room where I had printed copies of every shady transaction he'd made in the last year, including the charges from hotels near Aurora's apartment that he'd claimed were business meetings. His face when the mediator started going through the evidence? Better than any revenge I could have planned. But wait, it gets better. Remember that Peloton he bought me for Christmas, the one he said I never used? I finally logged into the account last week. Guess what I found? Workout history showing him and Aurora using it together at our house on days when I was visiting my sister. Yeah, in our house. I mentioned this casually during mediation, just slid the printed activity log across the table. James actually stuttered trying to explain that one. The real karma hit when Aurora finally realized James isn't as wealthy as he pretended to be. Apparently, she found out he's still paying off that Tiffany promise ring. Which, by the way, wasn't even from the actual Tiffany store. I found the receipt. It's from one of those lookalike websites. How do I know this? Well, Aurora did something interesting. She messaged me on Instagram. But instead of the usual "we need to talk" drama, she sent screenshots. Lots of screenshots. Messages where James promised to buy her a car with "what money, dude?" Conversations about moving into a luxury apartment that he definitely can't afford. Even some choice comments about me that, well, let's just say they're going to be interesting additions to our divorce proceedings. "I thought you should see who he really is," she wrote. "I'm done being part of his lies." I didn't respond. Just forwarded everything to my attorney. Professional revenge is so much better than drama. The cherry on top? James's mom called me yesterday. Turns out, she's been watching this whole thing unfold in our small town's gossip circle. She apologized for enabling his behavior all these years and then dropped a bombshell. James got fired from his job. Not because of me, apparently. He'd been inflating his expense reports for months. All those fancy dates with Aurora? He was charging them to his company card. I'm not going to lie, part of me wanted to post all this on Facebook, share the screenshots, make him feel as humiliated as I did when he called me useless. But you know what? I didn't have to. He's doing a perfect job of destroying his own reputation all by himself. Instead, I focused on making my new little studio apartment feel like home. Bought some plants from Home Depot. They're still alive. Figured out how to mount a TV by myself. YouTube is amazing. And even started learning to cook properly. Turns out I'm not actually hopeless in the kitchen like James always said. The best revenge? When he created yet another new Instagram account to message me, I didn't even feel angry. I just marked it as spam and went back to watching my YouTube cooking tutorial. Alright, you guys, one last update because some things happened recently that truly feel like a proper ending to this whole saga. It's been 6 months since James left, calling me his useless wife. And the divorce is finally official. No dramatic courtroom showdown. Just paperwork and lawyers in a bland office. James looked rough, wearing the same Nordstrom dress shirt he used to brag about, but now it was wrinkled and a bit tight. Seems like his fitness influencer lifestyle with Aurora didn't quite last. Here's where it gets interesting. Remember all those expense reports he was faking? His company didn't press charges or anything dramatic. They just did the corporate equivalent of a shrug. Withheld his last paycheck and bonuses, blacklisted him from future employment, and moved on. Turns out, big companies don't like public drama any more than necessary. Aurora left him last month. Not with a bang or a viral TikTok. She just moved back to her parents' place in the suburbs. Apparently, life gets less exciting when your boyfriend can't afford Cheesecake Factory dates anymore. She tried messaging me on Instagram to explain her side, but I just left her on read. Some things don't need closure. James is now renting a room in a shared house across town. His Tesla got repossessed, no surprise there, and he's driving a beat-up Honda. The same kind of car he used to mock me for wanting to buy because it was too basic. I'm still at my customer service job, but I got a small raise, $5 an hour. Not life-changing, but it's something. I learned how to do my own taxes through TurboTax. Turns out, it's not the complicated mystery James always made it out to be. I had an awkward but surprisingly revealing run-in with his mom at Target last week. She was buying storage bins in the same aisle as me. Instead of avoiding each other, we actually talked. She told me James tried to borrow money from them, but they refused. He needs to grow up, she said. Then she actually helped me pick out some cheap but nice-looking throw pillows for my studio apartment. The apartment's finally feeling like home. Got some plants from Home Depot, 2 out of 3 are still alive. Learned to cook basic meals through HelloFresh, and I even started going to Planet Fitness on weekends. Nothing fancy, just normal life stuff. James still tries to contact me through new Instagram accounts, usually when he's been drinking. Mostly stuff like, "You'll regret this," or, "You can't make it without me." I just block and delete. The funny part? I found his old password list in our shared Google Drive. Yes, he kept it in a document literally named Passwords. Didn't do anything with it, just forwarded it to his sister Katie, so she could tell him to change everything. I met a guy named Matthew at work. Nothing serious, we just have lunch in the break room sometimes. He's also recently divorced and gets why I'm not ready for anything real. But here's the real kicker. Last week, while getting coffee at Dunkin', I overheard some guys from James's old office talking. Turns out he's been calling and emailing trying to get his job back. Even showed up in the lobby once. They didn't even bother calling security. They just let him stand there until he got tired and left. His new life isn't exactly what he planned. No more fancy gym membership. He works out at the same Planet Fitness as me now. We awkwardly avoided each other in the parking lot once. Aurora's back on dating apps. His important business contacts don't return his calls. Meanwhile, I'm doing all the things he said I couldn't. Paying bills, fixing minor home problems, managing my own budget. Nothing extraordinary, just regular adult stuff that he convinced me was beyond my capabilities. I found our old wedding photos while cleaning last weekend. That girl in the photos trying so hard to be what he wanted. I barely recognize her now. The most satisfying moment wasn't some big revenge scene. It was yesterday at the bank depositing my paycheck. Yes, I still like doing it in person. The teller was the same one who helped me open my own account 6 months ago, when I was shaking and scared. She smiled and said, "You look happier, and you know what? I am." So that's my story. It's been a crazy, painful, but ultimately empowering journey. I'm curious, have any of you ever had a moment where you realized the person you thought you knew was a complete stranger? Or overcome a betrayal that made you stronger than ever? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to hear your experiences.